Good morning, folks. This is Billy Trout with the Tennessee Department of Revenue's Taxpayer Services Education section. And on behalf of our Commissioner David Geragino and our staff in Taxpayer Services, we'd like to welcome you to today's presentation on making changes to your TINTAP account. And of course, with us today, we have the talented Katie Julian, who is here to be our hostess for the session as always. And along with that, we have a special guest, Mr. Mitch Gibson, one of our managers of our call center, who sees your questions come in on a daily basis by telephone, and he and his staff do a most excellent job of addressing the issues on TINTAP on a daily basis, and he'll give us his insights as we move along as well. We also have our Assistant Director of Taxpayer Services, Dan Vinson, here today to help us with chat and to assist us in other ways as well. So as we kick this off, we're just glad to have you with us and glad that you're taking part or taking time out of your busy day or to view this recording as well. And we just appreciate your attendance on this webinar and also our other webinars. So with that, Katie, I'll turn it over to you, and we'll be talking to you throughout the presentation. Katie?
Thanks, Billy. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Just a couple things to mention before we proceed through this slide you're looking at right now. Hopefully you can hear and see me. If you have any issues during the webinar where something goes awry and you can't hear or see, we've found that one of the best ways is just to get out and come back in. A recording of this webinar, today's presentation, will be up in our webinar video library starting either later today or tomorrow, and you can get to that by going to tn.gov/revenue, then clicking on taxpayer education and then tax webinars. Scroll to the bottom and you'll find all of our webinars in the library there. We have chat closed during the slide presentation part of this webinar, and we will be opening it up when we're done with the slides to get any questions that you have that we do not cover during the presentation, or if you need any issues elaborated on, you can put those in the chat at that point. And then just our contact information at the bottom there on the slide you see, we'll also give you that several other times throughout the webinar today. So jot that information down, specifically revenue.support@tn.gov. That's how you can email us, or you can call our general call center, of which Mitch is one of the managers of, at 615-253-0600. So today's webinar, updating your Tennessee tax accounts. We're going to talk about how you can update your tax accounts and how you can make changes to your TINTAP account. We're going to be talking about what you can update in TINTAP, what you can do self-service. We all enjoy that, right? When you don't have to make a phone call, or when you can figure something out without having to dive too deep. We're going to tell you about all that stuff, and then we're also going to talk about the functions that are not available on TINTAP at this point, just certain account changes and certain things that you have to actually call us for or email us for. We'll share some resources with you, and then, like I said, we'll be answering some of your questions later in the webinar today. If you are a third party, a CPA, an accountant, and you have third-party access to a TINTAP account, you may not have all the functions we're going to talk about today, have the ability to perform all the functions. We do have a specific webinar that you can click on the link here if you are in the PDF, which actually, just on that, I believe Billy just posted a link over to the PDF of today's presentation. You'll see lots of hyperlinks on your WebEx screen. You can't click those in WebEx, but you can click them on the PDF. So click on that PDF link that's in the chat. The link on this page is directly over to the webinar that we had that's specifically about third-party access. Like I said, there's just a few functions that third parties are not able to perform for accounts that they manage. So moving along here, we're going to start with manage my profile. So when you're logged into TINTAP, so we're going to assume you've already gotten your log on and you're in TINTAP. We're also, during this presentation today, going to assume that you've already added access to your tax accounts, because when you first log into TINTAP, you won't see any tax accounts. You'll have to add access to your accounts. I'll show you here in a few slides a little bit later on how you can do that, but we also have great help articles about gaining access to your accounts. Once you have that account access, everything we talk about from this point on is going to assume you've got your account access. So manage my profile, which is in the top right hand corner when you're on TinTap Home. You've logged in. Up there in the top right corner, there's a link that says manage my profile. A lot of functions that are within manage my profile, or some of them are functions you can also get to in some other ways. There's a few different ways to get to certain places, but specifically manage my profile is going to help you is going to give you functions to help you manage your TinTap profile. For example, what you're seeing right now, the screenshot, if you want to zoom in on that, what you're going to be looking at, actually, I need my glasses here to put my eyes on. It's going to default over to the basics of your TinTap profile. You can see there that there's your logon name, your email, anything you see that's blue. This may go without saying, but that means it's a link and you can change it. That's kind of a hyperlink. Click on it if it's blue. You can see you have the ability to update your name. You have the ability to update your email address, your phone numbers. Over there on the right-hand side of the profile page, that's the security stuff. You can change your password, change your security question, and that's where two-step verification you can enable or disable. I'm going to recommend one of the options for two-step verification. You can either do two-step verification via an app, via a text message, or via email. I'm going to recommend to y'all that you use the app because it's fail proof. Two-step verification. Sometimes if you're using your phone to get a text for two-step verification, there can be issues with the carrier where it's not working. Sometimes with email, it'll go to your junk mail or there'll be a delay. If you use the two-step verification app, that is just fail proof, like I said. If in the odd chance that you get locked out due to multiple attempts to log into your TimTap account, it's going to lock you out. That's one of those reasons where you just have to call us because you can't get into TimTap. Hey, Billy.
Hey, Katie, just one thing real quick for the group. The text messaging thing actually works a little bit better also too than it used to. The reason for that is we've had some system enhancements that allow us to not have to worry so much about what your carrier is as opposed to what your true cell phone number might be. So this has streamlined this, and through technology, it's gotten quite a bit better. But yeah, the app works good. Email does work also. It's a little slower because email is dependent on going to whatever servers that emails come from. They could be bounced across the earth if you know how that kind of works. So anyway, just thought
Right.
I'd throw that out there at you. Thank you.
Thanks for adding that, Billy. That is a good point. We did have some enhancements recently that make it a little bit easier. If you use a cell phone number for your two-step verification, just make sure that it's one you have access to. Um, if you're needing to get into your account and you're using your assistant's cell phone number and they're not with you, this is where you can manage all that on this profile page within Manage My Profile, which is again on the top right hand corner when you're logged into your TinTap Home. We're going to look at another tab within this Manage My Profile, which is the More tab. You see a lot of options here when you click on More. It's going to look somewhat similar to when you click on More from your account summary homepage, but what sets this apart is where you can access your the different accesses that like users and third parties that have access to your TinTap account. This is where you can manage that. I'll go over that here in a minute. Your payment channels, changing your banking information, viewing all of your submissions. We'll dive a little deeper into some of these options next. The first one, and this is a lot of information if you need to zoom in here or open the PDF and zoom in. I really wanted to make sure that this is something that everybody understands, access levels and logons. I think we're in our 5th year now of having TinTap, and over the years, there's been people that were confused about this. I know we had third parties out there that had master level access, and that way the business couldn't have it. Lots of things like that. So we're still trying to make sure that everybody understands what the different access levels and logon levels are in TINTAP. So TINTAP access levels dictate what actions you can perform. Those actions are filing returns, making payments, file and pay, and then there's actually a view-only access level. The master TINTAP account logon has no restrictions, can do everything. This is going to be the first person that logs into the TINTAP account. We can always help you if somebody has master level access that shouldn't have access. This is one of those things where you need to reach out to us. We can help you fix that. So the master level has access to all TINTAP features, filing, paying, logon changes, everything we're going to be talking about today. If you have the master logon, you can do all this stuff. There's a logon that's called administrator, has the same permissions as a master logon, but it's only for accounts assigned to them. So this could be maybe your the master level account is or master logon is the business owner, and they assign administrator permissions to the person who handles business tax for them, can only see business tax accounts, for example. An account manager has the same permissions as the administrator, but cannot manage the logons. View only kind of goes without saying. No account changes are allowed. And third party by default, these logons can file and pay on returns. They can do most things, but there are a few functions that third party cannot do. And again, I'm going to recommend you, if you are a third party or if you're a master level logon and want to know more about what your third party logons can do, watch the webinar that I told you about a few slides ago in our webinar video library that's dedicated to just third party logons. All right, access management. So these are the steps that you're going to take to change or cancel third-party access. If you are the master level logon and you're wanting to monitor or manage the accesses that are in your account, you are going to first click on logons. You're going to see a list of people that have logons there. Katie123 is, let's say, one of your CPAs, and you're changing CPA firms and you're wanting to change that. Click on the actual username there, which is Katie123. Second thing you're going to click on is manage account access. And then the third thing there, you're going to see what all access they have. You're going to see what they can do. Over on the top right of that screen, there's a little blue manage button. You click on that, and that's where you can cancel access per account as needed. Again, this is for access management if you're wanting to go in and change your third-party access. For users, this is where you can add and delete secondary logons. Secondary logons are going to be the logons that we talked about, like administrators, those kind of things, account managers, people that you may want to have access to certain accounts that you have. You're going to click on My Users from the More tab, and then click on Manage Secondary Logons. You're going to see them listed there, just like you did for the third parties. And you can see here, if you want to zoom in, I had to fit a lot on each page. That's where it shows you can create a logon for someone else as an account manager, as an administrator, or as a view only, and then you'll be able to choose which accounts they can have view only or administrator or account manager access to. Likewise, you can delete their access using that same tab. Oops, did I click the wrong thing? I was trying to zoom out. Hope I didn't make y'all dizzy there. All right. So payment channels, another one of the options within the More tab of Manage My Profile. I'm going to refer you here to a couple of revenue help articles that we have. One is about saving your bank account information in TINTAP, and the other article is about removing saved bank account information. But once you click on that Payment Channels tab, you're going to see if you have a bank account that you've added in here, which for convenience, maybe something you want to do. You can add, you have the option to add a bank account there. You have the option to change details about As you can see here, this particular bank account, which is a SunTrust bank account, has access to, makes payments on the sales and use tax account, but we don't have any default payment channel for the business tax account in this example. You can add one in. It might be a different account. Maybe you use one account for all your sales and use tax stuff, and a different account for business tax, a different bank account for F&E tax. Whatever the case, you can see there you have the option to add different bank accounts for different tax accounts. Not keeping your bank account information updated can lead to penalties and interest. I've seen this so many times where you file and pay, you think you're doing it on time, you click, you submit, you've got saved bank account information in there. Well, maybe you forgot to go in and change it when you changed banks earlier that year, or whatever be the case. If you forget, then it's an insufficient fund penalty that cannot be waived. Hey, Mitch, you got something to add to this topic?
Yeah, I was just going to add the non-sufficient funds. So we occasionally get some taxpayers who forget to update their banking information, and they try to submit a payment. However, that bank account happens to be an old bank account, or it happens to maybe not be the bank account where the funds are actually where they actually are that the taxpayer thinks. And so they make a payment, the funds are not there, or the account's not active, they get hit with non-sufficient funds penalty. And depending on if they are late, because they thought that they paid on time, they'll also get hit with additional, delinquency penalties and interest. And so always updating that payment information and making sure that it's up to date is extremely important. So I just wanted to add about the non-sufficient funds penalty. So.
Thanks, Mitch. Hey, Billy.
Tag on to what Mitch said there too. Just remember that these penalties are penalties and not necessarily the penalties that a bank might charge. So
Right.
Your bank could have an additional penalty for that, and of course that has nothing to do with us whatsoever. That's between you and your financial institution.
So in other words, you can get ding, ding, ding. It can cause you to have to submit a return late or the payment late. You could get insufficient funds penalty on your tax account and hit by your bank. So very important to keep your payment channels updated. What you see here on the screen, this is how you do so. We may have just stressed you out enough about it to where you don't want to save bank account information. Didn't want to do that. We recommend that, not recommend, but if this is something helpful to you, then great. I think I would like to do this for my tax accounts. Just I like to save bank account information for things that I do often, for certain bills I pay. So just a way to update that if you need to, and a couple of help articles there. Some other stuff about payments specifically that you can do on TINTAP that I want to touch on. You can cancel or delete a payment in TINTAP. Some payments, I should say, some payments. Credit card payments cannot be canceled or deleted, and ACH debit payments can only be canceled or deleted while it is in processing mode. If it has already been processed, if that has already happened and we have processed that payment, you cannot cancel it or delete it at that point. But there's a period of time where you can cancel or delete a payment that's an ACH debit payment. You can check on the status of a payment. And these are, let me say this too, these are links to help articles about these topics. So if you're in the PDF that goes along with today's presentation, click on those to find out more information. But if you're wanting to know if you can cancel or delete or wanting to find out the status, there's an article about checking the status of a payment. Oops, I skipped one. Printing a payment receipt. There's directions in the help article about printing a payment receipt there and receiving TINTAP payment confirmation. Okay, so another thing that you would have to contact us for, if you made a payment that was applied to the incorrect filing period, or you meant for it to be made towards a sales tax period, but you made it towards your business tax account. If a payment went to the wrong place, there's currently not a way to move that payment within TINTAP. There's no self-help in doing that. You have to contact us for that. Contact us, our call center at 615-253-0600 if you need to move a payment that was incorrectly applied. Hey, Mitch, you probably see this a lot, don't you?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, we we assist a lot of taxpayers with, moving financials because, maybe they got submitted to the incorrect account or incorrect filing period. We are not able to move payments until they have fully posted. And so if you have submitted a payment and it is still in the processing mode, we can't really do anything with those funds because I guess we technically don't have them yet because it's still in the
Right.
processing mode. And so sometimes we'll get taxpayers who call the same day they submit a payment, say, hey, I accidentally sent it here. I want it to go here. We can't really do anything until that payment officially posts. And so that's typically the very next business day. So just kind of be aware of that.
Great. Thanks, Mitch. And they can check on the status of that payment, I believe, under the submissions tab. It'll say payment pending, payment processing, payment processed.
Yep. That
Um,
submissions section is really helpful.
Great. Thank you for adding that. I will say too, after you make a payment, a confirmation page will appear after you've submitted that payment through TINTAP. That confirmation does not necessarily mean that the payment is successful yet. It's just saying you've submitted a payment. There's been confusion about that before too. They'll say, well, I got the confirmation. Well, that's just a confirmation that the payment has been submitted. An email is sent to you also once you've submitted the payment. Same thing. It's just a confirmation that it has been submitted. So we're going to look here at the submit, what you're going to see under the submissions tab. You're going to see processed submissions. You can choose the date here. These are things like returns that have been filed, payments, changing contact information. If you want to see submissions that are beyond the last year, you can change the date there. It's only submissions within the last year are going to show up, but you can search for further back ones within the search function there. So this is where you'll see that something is happening here. You can see in this example that we've got October 23rd of 2023, a payment confirmation. See October 18th, a sales and use tax return was filed. This is where you can also see a confirmation number. That might help if you're calling us and wanting to give a confirmation number. You can see all of that in submissions. All right, so we're going to move on now from the Manage My Profile link, and we're going to look at the TINTAP Home Summary. When you're logged in to TINTAP, you can see here this Jim Jones Corp. They have access to a business tax account and a franchise excise tax account here. You're going to see what it defaults to is the summary page. You can see that kind of highlighted in blue there. There's also an option within TINTAP Home for favorites, action center, settings, and more. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into a couple of those tabs here in a minute. But just to give you a quick tour here of what it's going to look like when you first log in, this is what you're going to see. It'll look a little bit different if you're a third party, but this is for the master account level. And you can see there, we've got highlighted over on the right for this business tax account, you can make a payment, you can view and file returns, and there's an option for additional actions. If you have a return that is ready to file and has not been filed yet, you will also see a little link right under your account information that is specific to that unfiled return. You don't see an example of that on this example, but so additional actions looks a little bit different depending on the tax account type. So if you click on additional actions for your sales tax account, that's where you'll see a couple options here for exemption renewal to renew an agricultural exemption if that applies to your account. You can petition for penalty waiver and claim a refund. I think that is across all different tax accounts. That's an option, as well as closing the account. For business tax, I'm going to call your attention here to what you see under the main additional actions tab is filing for a penalty waiver or refund, closing account. You can also there view your licenses and certificates. View licenses. Most jurisdictions in Tennessee send their licenses to TINTAP. A couple of our larger jurisdictions, Memphis, Shelby County, Davidson County, Nashville, do not send their licenses over to TINTAP. Just so you know, you won't see a Memphis or Shelby or Davidson or Nashville license on TINTAP. You'll have to reach out directly to your clerk. About viewing licenses, if you believe that you have filed and paid and are up to date with your business tax and you should see a license under view licenses and you don't see it there, it could be that that clerk has not yet clicked okay to process that renewal or that license. This happens a lot right around filing time for business tax, where the clerks are slammed and they have not gone in yet. Say you filed and paid yesterday for your business tax, but you go in today and you're not seeing your renewed business license on here. It could just be that they have not yet processed it on their end. The city and county clerks by law are administer the actual license. So if once they click to send it over to us, then we'll see it here. But if you have questions about that, um, around business license renewal time and business tax filing time, I would say it's not uncommon for that to take a few days after you file and pay. If everything looks good on your end, your account balance is zero, you filed everything you need to file, paid everything, and you're not seeing a license there, may want to just give it a few days. Of course, you can always call us or reach out to your local jurisdiction, city or county clerk as well. Franchise and excise tax under the additional actions, you're going to see it's going to look a little bit different. You're going to see the option there for franchise excise federal income revision. You can submit a franchise and excise federal income revision there. Again, petition for penalty waiver, submit a job tax credit business plan, or claim a refund. If you click on tax credits, you can see there what is going on with your carryovers. So a good action there, something that might be helpful for you for your franchise and excise tax account. Closing an account. So you might have noticed on our big basic accounts, F&E, sales tax, business tax, but also on the other accounts, there's always going to be the option to close an account on the additional actions tab within the account. If a location or account is closing, you want to make sure that you're going to choose the proper date. If you zoom in a little bit here, it's first question it's going to ask you when you click on close account is, do you want to close all locations? If that's pertinent to you, you get to choose yes or no there. But the next one says date closed. So if the closure date is within a period for which a return has been filed and paid, then no further action is needed other than just close it, clicking through these steps here. An example there would be you filed and paid for last year's business tax filing period for 2022, right? You filed and paid that, and you're wanting to go in now and close it for December 1st of 2022. You've already filed and paid for that tax period. Just click through all this and you're going to be good to go. If your business is closing, maybe let's say you closed your business in March of 2023 and you're wanting to close it on here, you can choose that as your closure date, March 2023, but just know you're going to have to file and pay for the 2023 period in order to complete the location closure. And of course, at this point, that return wouldn't even be available to you yet. It wouldn't be available till January 1. But Mitch, if you could pop in here, I think I'm right on this, but they can call to have us generate that return. If they're closing their account now and they need to file, it won't automatically come up for them, but they can reach out to us, say, please generate this so I can file and pay, get it off my back, right?
Yes, that is correct. Our system automatically generates returns once that filing period has, come to its conclusion. However, we do sometimes have taxpayers that want to close their business before that filing period has, sort of reached the end date, and we can go in and generate that return for you. That's no problem.
Okay. So again, using the example I just talked about, your business closed in March of 2023. You're just realizing now you never went in and closed it for business tax, let's say. Go in now, choose the closure date of March of 2023. You know you're going to have to file for those 3 months you were open, business tax, your gross receipts for that. It's not going to generate till January 1 of 2024. That's when the business tax returns for that filing period would typically generate. Call us if you want to do it now, though. If you want to go ahead and file that return, reach out to us.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. There is confusion over this. Often, if you just need to be very careful with the closure date you choose. If you closed in 2022 sometime, but you just kind of default to today's date on that closure date, we can fix that for you, But if you just if it goes on unchecked like that, our system's going to be expecting a business tax return for you for this tax year. Hey, Billy.
Something very basic too, just to add, and don't want to seem trivial about it, but it's so important. A lot of times people who set up businesses or maybe even think they're going to set up businesses and don't really quote do anything with it. We hear from these folks every day actually. That's fine. We understand that. But at the same time, you can't just decide not to do business. You have to close the accounts. You have to file the final returns. You have to pay the final amount of money that is due. Okay. And I don't say that to kind of preach at you. It's just to kind of let you know, hey, it's a requirement of the law. And until you do that, you can't really close out. So if you need us to help you with that, that's fine. You can call Mitch and his staff or myself or our folks that answer the emails or whatever, and we'll help you. We'll get you to exactly where you need to be so that you can close things out properly.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on top of what Billy just said, this particular screen that you're looking at is, this taxpayer would just be closing one account. They may have access to multiple accounts, and we try to encourage taxpayers to try to make sure that there's C states for all of their accounts. There's some type of rhyme and reason as to what C states are being selected for all of the different accounts. They should all kind of be in alignment for the most part. You don't want to have one account ceasing in 2022, but then another account ceasing, way into 2023. That kind of comes off a little inconsistent.
That's going to be like a
And
red
so
flag, right? For
could potentially be, and that doesn't necessarily mean that anything bad is happening or something is nefarious is happening. It just means that these C states, they should be in somewhat of an alignment. And so if you have any questions about closing out multiple accounts, then I strongly encourage you to reach out to us, and we can sort of guide you through that process.
Absolutely. And just to reiterate what Mitch just mentioned, this is just closing. We're within we're within one of your tax accounts right here. You would have to go in and close each one. Just to remind you where we are right here, to go back, see how under the business tax account, let me turn on my annotator here. We're within this business tax account. We have clicked on additional actions. You can see for the F&E account, there's additional actions there. Within each account, you're going to see the option to close account. Close account. If your business has closed, you need to do this for each account. And like Mitch said, those closure dates should be in alignment. It can be depending on how many accounts you have and how many different locations you have. Just maybe get your ducks in a row before you go into this process.
Yep.
Great. Thank you, Mitch. Let's see here. Where were we? Okay. All right. We're going to move along here to what you can do when you're on TinTap Home and click on More. You can see on the screen here, if you want to zoom in, a lot of the different options here. This is where you can manage accounts. Payments, that's different than your payment channels, and I'll go over that here in a minute. Some additional services, you can see everything that's listed here. We're going to go in a little bit more detail about manage accounts, payments, additional services, and names and addresses. All right, so for TinTap Home and then More and then Manage Accounts, this is where you can register a new account, register a new location, gain access to an account that includes your own. So earlier when we first started, and I said, kind of going to go through today, assuming that you already have access to all your accounts. If you know you have a business tax account and you're logged into TinTap right now and you don't see it, this is where you go, manage accounts, and then gain access to an account. You'll need a little bit of information. You'll need your account information, maybe a letter ID number. We can help you with that. There's a great article. If Mitch or Billy or Dan, if y'all could put a link to the help article about gaining access to an account in the chat. Again, like I said, we're going to assume here with everything that you already have that, but you may not, and you may need some assistance with doing that. So you can also look up tax account numbers. If you don't know your tax account number, but you will need to know your EIN and some other important, or social, depending on what type of business you are. But you can look up a tax account number also. So if you register a new location for business tax, just so you know, you may also be liable for a business license from the local jurisdiction. Um, Business license and business tax kind of go hand in hand. There are some big changes that happen with business tax and business licensing this year that go into effect this tax year. There's a new threshold of 100,000 for the business tax requirement and standard business license. We've got a webinar that we did about that just a couple months ago. There's a link to it. If you have the PDF, you can click right over to the link to our webinar about business tax law changes. And also we have a slide here in a couple of minutes that details a little bit more about how you can update your tax account if you are not going to meet this threshold this year. Payments. So a little while ago, we talked about your payment channels when you're up and manage my TINTAP profile, right? That's where you could put your saved banking information or change your banking information. When you're on TINTAP Home and click More and then click on Payments, it's a little bit different. The option here is for requesting a payment plan. Only a master logon can request a payment plan. Third-party logons do not have this ability. And just so you know, for payment plans, if you do want to request a payment plan, you have to have all of your returns and payments. I'm sorry, that's wrong. All your returns filed. All your returns filed. I'll make an edit on that and repost this. All returns must be filed in order to request a payment plan. To manage payment channels and banking information, again, you're going to do that under Manage My Profile. Where there is a revenue help link here. There's several articles we have all about payment plans. So if you want some more information about that, you can follow that link. Additional services that are within the More tab. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. This is just a kind of a screenshot of you can see what you can do here. Refunds, print certificates, power of attorney, bond form, bond writer form, obtain F&E clearance. You can apply or renew F&E tax exemptions in certain circumstances, and you can search for payments. That's a good thing to know there. It's kind of buried. You'd think it would. You can search for payments in a few other areas, but this is a good link if you're specifically searching for a payment right there. All right, names and addresses. First, we're going to talk about names for just a minute. When you click on the names and addresses link within More, you're going to see this option first. You see names is highlighted there. Let's go to laser point. You see names. We'll talk about addresses and locations in a minute, but under names, you're going to see defaults here just like with all the different TINTAP pages. If you see something in blue, that means it's something that you can change or dive further into. So if you want to change your legal name, if you want to change your DBA, you would click right there on those blue links. Addresses. So there's a little bit of nuance here with addresses. So just to explain to you here, mailing, you're going to see a couple options: mailing and primary. Location addresses, that's a different thing. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Mailing address, that's where you prefer to receive Department of Revenue letters. Your primary address, if it's different than the mailing, is where the business is headquartered, if any. And this address is not required. You don't need a primary address. You do need a mailing address, and that mailing address has to be a street address. It cannot be a PO box. A lot of the different location-based taxes, like business tax and sales tax, are dependent on the location. The funds are going to get allocated to the local jurisdiction based on where you're located. If you're a home-based business, the location is your home. Your mailing address, however, can be a PO box. Did I say that wrong, y'all? Mitch, Billy, Dan, mailing? I hope I said that right. A mailing address can be a PO box. The location cannot be a PO box.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
We don't
think
want
I
to
might
use a
have
PO
mixed-
box for a location address at all.
Right. and we'll talk-
That's exactly right. And another thing too is some taxpayers use locations like postal mailing stores that might be around in different areas. Those location addresses are not PO boxes per se, but they should not use the street address of that postal location either.
Right.
Okay. That's not a valid location for tax purposes. We have to know where that business's books and records are. Okay. And that's very important that we be able to reach out to that business, either with their primary address or location address or mailing address at all times too. One just real quick thing, and again, real basic and not to preach, but the Department of Revenue does not own a crystal ball. We do not know when you change your location. We do not know when you change your mailing address unless you tell us. Okay. We get piles of return mail on a monthly
Right.
basis back for people who have not changed their addresses with us. Please do so. You know, if you can't do it on TINTAP for whatever reason, reach out to us, call Mitch, call me, um, or send us an email. We'll take care of it. We'll fix you up. I promise. Very easy to do. And we really want to help you on that, guys. So thank you very much.
Yeah, please pay careful attention to having correct addresses in TINTAP. This is one of those easy things you can do in TINTAP, especially with your mailing address. Location address, that's another thing. I do want to say here too, you see that when changing an address, whether you're doing that for your mailing address, your primary address, when you're registering, you need to click on the blue verify address bar. FYI, I did go ahead and open up the chat since I'm talking too much and we've only got 20 minutes left. So go ahead and start putting your questions into that. And when we open up the floor to discuss stuff, we'll have those already in there. Okay, so location. This is for location-based taxes like business tax, sales tax, liquor by the drink, etc. You can only change the location address if the new address is not in a new jurisdiction. Okay, let's say you're in the same little strip mall and you're moving from Suite A to Suite B within that strip mall. Likely you're not going to be changing to a new county or a new municipality, just making a little change like that. You can change that in TINTAP. You can change that location in TINTAP there. If your new location that you've moved to is in any way in a different jurisdiction, it's a little bit more complicated. You'll need to close the current location, do whatever goes along with closing. Remember we talked about closing a few slides ago, which might mean filing a return for that location. Then you're going to register the new location. Again, if you're closing a location, you're gonna need to refer to information on location and account closure, and then you'll be registering a new location. If that new location is within a new jurisdiction, let's say you're staying in the same county, but you've moved from City of Red Bank to City of Chattanooga. Okay, you don't need a new Hamilton County license because you're staying within that county. But if you're moving to a new municipality, if that new location's within a different city within the county, you may need a new business license for where you're moving to. So there's other things involved there. Changing your location in TINTAP is not cut and dry. I'll say that. Another thing you can do in TINTAP is amending a return. You see here some steps to take. When you're on the main account page, you can click on view/file returns. And then once you do that, you'll see an option for view or amend a return. It's pretty simple from that point forward. You'll just go through steps to go into your return and make any amendments necessary. But just to make note here, you see highlighted here, if amendment is made after the due date of the return and the amendment results in additional tax owed, penalty and interest will calculate based on the difference. And if your amended return results in a credit, woohoo, you can request a refund, right? Hey, another great thing about keeping your mailing address updated is that a refund can be processed. If you request a refund and we have received returned mail from you, you won't be able to we won't be able to process a refund, just FYI there. Okay, we're going to talk about some things that you cannot do in TINTAP. Yes, Mitch.
I am so sorry. Can you go to the previous slide
Sure.
for amending returns? I was answering a chat and wanted to mention when it comes to amending returns, there's some scenarios where we have taxpayers who submit a return with a payment in TINTAP, and then they realize they made a mistake on the return and they amend that return immediately, like same day as that original submission. And when they amend the return, they do not submit a payment again because they think that they've already submitted their payment. When you amend that return on the same day, immediately after submitting the original return, it wipes out that original payment that was submitted.
Oh,
Okay.
wow. Good to know.
So
Good to know.
So we've had a lot of situations where taxpayers have submitted a return with payment. They realize they made a mistake on the return. An hour later, they go in, make an amendment to that return, and then they receive a nasty letter a month later saying that they did not pay their tax. And they're just, wondering, I did make a payment. They did make a payment, but that amendment actually erased that previous payment that was submitted. And so just be aware that if you make any amendments on the same day as you submitted that original return, then that could potentially mess with that payment submission. It just depends on how you submitted it. If you submitted the payment with the return, then any amendments is going to alter that entire submission. If you submit a payment separate from the return and you amend the return, then that payment should be fine. So if you
Okay.
have any questions, I strongly encourage you to just give us a call or submit a Zendesk ticket to us, and we can take a look at those submissions just to make sure that everything is where it needs to be.
Right. So you're talking specifically about day of
Day
or
of,
day
correct.
of amendments.
If you
It's a
do it the
little bit
next day, then it's probably going to be fine.
that payment's
But
probably already posted at that point anyway, so we don't reverse those.
probably, or it's
Yeah.
fully in the process,
Okay.
mode or something like that. But this is just for same day amendments to your return when you submitted a payment with the original return. So just
Okay.
want to clarify
Good
that.
to know. Thank you for
Yep.
verifying that and telling us about that, Mitch. So now we're going to talk for just a minute about this new business tax threshold that's a result of the 2023 Tennessee Works Tax Act. So this bill passed in May, effective for December 31, 2023 tax period. If your gross sales are under 3,000, nothing changes there. No business license required, no business tax required, therefore no renewal. If your gross sales, not net, but gross sales are under 3,000 for the 2023 tax period, call us. We can close your account at your request. If your gross sales are between 3,000 and 100,000 for this 2023 period, you may already know that. We're inching towards the end of this 12/31 2023 tax period, right? You may be so far under 100K that you just know right now. Maybe you don't know until you get a little closer to the date. Whenever you're quite sure that your gross sales for the 2023 tax period are between 3 and 100,000, we can, at your request, change your account filing status to filing not required based on this new law. We cannot do that unless you contact us. You have to contact the Tennessee Department of Revenue. Here's our phone number at the bottom of this slide. This is a big change that's going to affect a lot of businesses in this state where you're not going to have to mess with filing business tax anymore. That between 3 and 100,000, no business tax filing requirement. We will then therefore let the counties and cities know that you're switched to a minimal license at that point, minimal activity license. You will then renew that license directly with your city and county upon expiration of your current license. So if you've got a business license in your hand right now and you had a standard business license, but you're needing to switch because you're going to not meet this 100,000 threshold, call us, let us know. We'll change you to filing not required. Your current license is good until the expiration date on it, which for most of you is going to look a lot like May 15th, 2024. You will need to renew that business license if you're still in business directly with your clerk come May or before then if you decide to. If you are going to be grossing over 100,000 for this 12/31/23 tax period, ignore all of this. Doesn't apply to you. You just keep on keeping on. Keep filing business tax. When you file and pay your business tax, we'll let the clerks know. They'll renew your license and keep on keeping on there. One thing you cannot do in TINTAP for the most part is exemptions, all the sales tax exemptions. Currently, you cannot do that on TINTAP. This is a screenshot of all the different exemption applications on our website. There is a link here at the bottom of this page. If you're in the PDF, you can go directly over to our sales tax page. And under forms on that tax page, you see all the different sales tax exemptions. Again, as of the date that we are recording this, you cannot apply for an exemption on TINTAP. You can, however, renew renew an ag exemption, and that's under additional actions within your sales tax account. You may have remembered seeing that just a few slides ago. You can currently, if you have a late return, the system will not calculate penalty and interest when you are in the moment you are submitting that late return. You've got a couple of options. You can either wait until the return is posted. So maybe overnight, if it's over the weekend, log in on a Monday and see what your total is that includes penalty and interest. Or you can calculate your own penalty and interest if you trust yourself as a mathematician there, and enter it on the summary page as you're submitting that late return, or just contact us and we will help you with that. Dan, did you have
Katie,
something to add?
Katie, we got some news that the particular slide for new business tax threshold is not on the PDF.
Oh, yeah, we actually made that change after we submitted. We're going to be updating the PDF with this slide later today. It was a kind of a last minute addition. I should have mentioned that. Sorry, y'all. Someone's got a keen eye. I love that y'all are looking at the PDF along with it, though. Good. Transferring credits. This is also something you currently cannot do on TINTAP. If you have a credit on one account and a balance or liability on another account, as you can see in this example right here, the business tax account has a credit on it of $560. That sales tax account has a tax liability on it of $200. Our system will not transfer that without you requesting it. You can either call us or email us to request transfer of credit. Now, credit within a period within an account will automatically be applied to the next period unless there's some kind of stop on it. I wouldn't just assume that. I would, if you've got questions about that, reach out to us. But we're specifically talking here about transferring credits from one account, from one tax account to another. You have to call us about that. Like this person, if they had everything filed and everything done, and they realize they've got money sitting over there in the business tax account, and they want to move 200 of that over to sales tax, they can totally do that. Just got to reach out to us first. All right. Well, I have already opened up the chat. Mitch, Dan, Billy, I see a lot going on over there in the chat.
Yeah, I think that we've touched a few nerves here. That's perfect. It's exactly what we want to do. We want to get you guys thinking this morning. So one interesting question I think someone had here too is about the difference between business tax and franchise and excise tax, and all these thresholds that Katie mentioned a minute ago about the 3,000 and the 100,000 and all that stuff. That has nothing to do with franchise and excise taxes. Okay, so if you are an LLC or corporation or another type of entity subject to to franchise and excise tax, you continue to have a filing requirement and a payment requirement every year, even if you don't do anything with your LLC, as we typically hear. But that's $100 tax on an annual basis. So just make sure that you're aware of that and that you don't get that confused with business tax or business licensing requirements. And there are no changes relative to that part of the law for franchise and excise tax. Anything from your end there, Mitch? Anything hit you when you had seen in chat?
Yeah, someone had said that they wanted to remove one of their clients that they are no longer working with. They can go to the More tab in TINTAP, and I believe there's a link that says Manage My Access or Manage Access, something to that effect. And you should be able to see a list of all of the different clients that you have access to. And you can just remove your access from there. I think it may phrase it as delete access or something like that. But that's how you can remove an account if you're a third party. I assume this person may be an accountant or CPA or something like that.
More details about that as well, Mitch, on the webinar that we had specifically for TINTAP third parties that we put a link to earlier in here.
Yeah, and if anybody has any problems, questions, or whatever, you're looking at that TINTAP screen and you don't get it, something's not clicking for whatever reason, particularly if you can do this during the business day when we have staff in the office, we can look into this immediately with you. In fact, we have a kind of a cool tool that we can actually look at what your screen says, at least most of the data anyway. And then we can kind of talk you through different things. That's really helpful for taxpayers that don't know how to file particular types of tax returns on TINTAP and that. So it's really nice to be able to go through that and assist on that. But we can also help with the access issues and the other things that Mitch and Katie have already mentioned to you.
I like to tell people too, just to go into TINTAP and play around. Like I said, everything that's blue, you can click on. You'll have to click through several and confirm before you make any changes. So you can't really mess up just clicking to see what's available to you by clicking on those blue links within the different areas of TINTAP. Anything that you're going to, any change you're going to make, you're going to know you're making an actual change because it's going to be like, are you sure you want to do this? Yes, no, submit, that kind of thing. So if you just want to click around and see what all is available for you to do, everything that's blue in TINTAP is something you can click on and change.
Katie,
Um,
my good friend Maria has a question. She doesn't want to go hang out with the county clerk. So she asked, if you don't want to renew directly with the county clerk, but gross sales is under 100,000, can I go ahead and file the business tax return? And would the tax be the minimum $22? How would you
Ooh,
answer
I'll
that?
take that one. Yes, absolutely.
Mhm.
Yes, for the year for the 12/31/23 period, she is allowed to do that, and she can pay the tax as we have been doing now for several years. And then a license will be generated as we have been doing also for the past few years as well on that. Now, what we don't know is what we're going to do after 23. I think some decisions are going to have to be made as to whether or not that will continue to be the case. Because as you know, the Tennessee legislature changed this threshold amounts with the intent that taxpayers not file tax returns with the Tennessee Department of Revenue unless they're obligated to do so. Okay. But transitionally, the decision has been made to allow that for the 23 year at the taxpayer's request. But we would strongly encourage taxpayers to go ahead and make their change over to the license only situation and deal with the counties and cities directly, because I do think it will end up being that way. So it's going to end up being the situation that you want to deal with too. Plus, it's the right thing to do. It's what the law says. Okay. And of course, there are a few dollars to be saved, quite honestly, in that whole process too. Many of the cities and counties, and Katie knows this because she's been working a lot with the counties and cities, they are getting or have already systems in place for which you can renew your minimal activity license online and go ahead and remit your payment for that. And you don't necessarily have to go and visit that office, but that is county by county, city by city, and it does vary. So you'd want to check with your counties and cities about that. Did I say that right, Katie? Is that right?
Yes, you did.
Okay. I figured it was, but you're the expert since you talk to
I
these
don't know
folks
about
all the
that.
time.
Apparently, we had posted an old P&I file from 2021. Does anybody got the newer P&I? Is this
Oh,
the
it's
one we posted?
8%. It's 8% is interest right now.
Okay.
I did want to answer one question. John had a question asking about tax rates for business tax. He's a class 2 retailer, asking if the tax rate's 0.0015. That is the correct tax rate for business tax class 2. I'm going to share a link to our website where it shares all of the different tax rates pertaining to the classifications of business tax in the chat. So if anyone else has questions about tax rates for retailers or wholesalers, you can visit that link there.
It might be worth noting that that rate that Mitch just quoted is less than 1%, way less, way less than 1%. So the business tax is not a heavy percentage, but the rates do vary by classification, and for many of them, whether they're retail or wholesale.
Well, y'all,
Thank you, Mitch, for doing
we
that.
have run out of time.
No,
Lots of questions still that may be unanswered if you didn't get a direct answer or we didn't get a chance to verbally discuss your question here on the webinar. You see here how to reach out to us. Email us at revenue.support@tn.gov, or you can call our helpline, our tax helpline at 615-253-0600. A couple other ways to stay in touch with us and follow us here. If you're in the PDF, you can link directly over to these, but we are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. You can sign up for email updates. I really want to recommend if you're a tax professional or a business owner to find some way to follow us here, because there is important information that we put out. If there is a important notice about something, if we've got information about one of these webinars coming up, if there's just anything that you would need to know, we are going to keep you posted via one of these channels that you see here. So stay in touch with us so we can reach out to you and let you know stuff. Our next webinar, we're breaking the mold just a little bit. Usually our tax webinar is the last Tuesday of every month, but in December, it is the second to last Tuesday of the month, because the last Tuesday falls in that period between Christmas and New Year's, and a lot of you are hopefully going to be home with your families, perhaps. So we're moving it up, and it's taxation of computer software is the topic next month. Join us for that, and we also have another virtual new business workshop coming up on January 10th. In the new year. You can register for both of those. We'll have the link to register for next month's webinar up here later today. And we currently have the link up to register for our new business workshop on January 10th up. So from our homepage at tn.gov/revenue, just click on Taxpayer Education and Outreach, and then either tax webinars or new business workshops. So thank you all so much for being here today. Mitch, we love having you as our special guest.
Thank you. Yes, Mitch. Good job. As always.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Katie,
And
you
y'all,
even did okay too. How about that?
you did okay too. You had some,
Thanks. I
you
appreciate
had some
it.
decent input. All right, y'all. Thanks again for joining us. If you could just take a moment to complete a survey when you're exiting out of this, let us know how we did, and specifically let us know if you have any ideas for future webinars. We're always looking for topic ideas. We want to present on what you want to hear about.
And do email us or call us with these questions that we did not get to today, please. Okay. Thank you very much for that.
All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys.